Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 23rd of February 2023. These are the stories that we will try to decipher during the course of the show. We'll begin with the visit of the Pakistani delegation that was led by the Minister for Defence to Afghanistan, in which it was conveyed to the Afghan side about Pakistan's issues concerning the TTP and the incursion of such elements from the Afghan soil into Pakistan. And apparently the Afghan interim government has said that it is going to collaborate with the Pakistani side in order to thwart all such elements from entering Pakistani soil. A positive development, but we will be discussing all maneuverings around that, as well as the angles that concern the TTP and Pakistan and our security in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the latest as far as the Ukraine-Russia conflict is concerned. A lot of developments are happening, whether it be the United Nations session that is going to be held on Thursday concerning this conflict, whether it be China that is trying to mediate between Russia and Ukraine. There have been meetings between the Russian side and the Chinese side to that respect, or whether it be the European Union that is siding wholeheartedly with Ukraine as far as supplying it with arms and ammunition is concerned. That and more will be part of our second segment. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we will be discussing the 32nd anniversary of the Poshpora village, Kunanposhpora village incident, in which more than 150 women were mass raped by the Indian armed forces in 1991 on this very day. It's because of that since 2014, the Kashmiri women observe this day as the Kashmir Women Resistance Day. The Indian atrocities as far as the women are concerned have continued unabated even after 1991, and to date in 2023 we still hear of rapes, we still hear of violence on women, on children, on men, and the continued barbarities that the Indian forces and the Indian government are putting on the people in the Indian Hill Valley. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns the visit of the Pakistani delegation to Afghanistan to highlight what is happening in Pakistan through the Afghan soil because of Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, and apparently it has been accepted by the Afghan interim government that both the governments will work side by side together, collaborate in order to thwart all such elements more. In the following report.
Terrorism is a common threat to both Pakistan and Afghanistan, and thus counter-terrorism cooperation between these countries is indispensable to combat growing scourge of militancy. Pakistan expects sincere cooperation from the Afghan interim government to address the challenge of terrorism and hopes that Afghanistan will live up to its commitments made with the international community and Pakistan in this regard. A high-level delegation led by country's Defence Minister Khawaja visited Kabul as Pakistan expects certain actions by Afghan government against terrorist outfits operating out of Afghan soil. Pakistan managed to secure renewed commitment from Afghan Taliban on tackling the terror threat posed by the banned Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. A statement issued by the Foreign Office clearly indicated the main purpose of the Pakistani high-level delegation to discuss the TTP challenge. The visit came at a time when the Afghan side closed the main border crossing between Pakistan and Afghanistan at Turkham. In their latest act of terrorism, TTP gunmen raided the police headquarters in Karachi, in which 4 people including 3 security personnel lost their lives. Pakistan has been reiterating that no country should allow its territory to be used for perpetrating terrorism against Pakistan. It is time that the commitments made to the world are fulfilled with sincerity and in good faith actions.
Now, as far as the visit of the Pakistani delegation to Afghanistan is concerned, some of the facts that regard this visit to our neighbouring country include that this visit was headed by the Defence Minister Khawaja and was planned with a single point agenda to counter terrorism and the use of Afghan soil by the militants belonging to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. There were major concerns from the Pakistani side that were communicated to the Afghan side, that included the TTP's ideological alignment with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan and the legacy of coexistence, the hideouts of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and shelters in Afghanistan through which they are operating within Pakistan, the unaccountable movement and the activities of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan with deliberate facilitation of the Afghan authorities. The Afghan intelligence agency also briefed the Pakistani delegation and accepted the problem of terrorism that was originating from the Afghan soil. They presented detail of the solution but was found unsatisfactory or lacking in addressing the key security issues that Pakistan had raised. Also, our intelligence agency ISI then gave irrefutable evidence of the presence of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and the precise location of the TTP leadership within the Afghan soil. The Afghan leadership could not deny the facts on the ground and could not have the courage to mention about the evidence given to Pakistan regarding the sanctuaries of the TTP that are present within the Afghan soil. They accepted and agreed to fix the issue, promised to work for regional peace and control the TTP elements inside of Afghanistan. Also, the Pakistani leadership communicated in unequivocal terms that Pakistan's goodwill should not be taken as a sign of weakness and tangible action will be taken against the militants belonging to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Also, the leadership expressed serious concern over provocations by the Afghan forces along the Pakistan-Afghan border. Pakistan also rebutted the stance from the Afghan side of mismanagement of Afghan nationals at various border crossings. They were told that Afghanistan repeatedly failed to ensure provision of border crossing protocols for the Afghan citizens. Pakistan has already made all-out efforts to facilitate the Afghan nationals who are legally crossing into Pakistan on a daily basis. We also know about the Torkham border that has been closed by the Afghan side. Now it has been the fourth day now today that this border is closed, and it is causing immense problems not only for the Pakistani side but also for the Afghan side. At the same time, there have been attacks by the TTP militants. 6 TTP militants were killed in intelligence-based operation in Lucky Marwat in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Also, a TTP man was killed and a would-be suicide bomber was held in North Waziristan. This and adds to so many other incidents that are happening across Pakistan, to which the main credit is going to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. This and more, the fact remains that despite what the Afghan authorities had been saying in the past about negating the fact that the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan were in fact operating from Afghanistan into Pakistan soil, and it was because of that that we've been witness to so many heinous incidents, including that what happened in the red zone area of Peshawar in the mosque that killed scores of people, to which Jamaat-ul-Ahrar did accept responsibility, and then there was a mull or basically a silence as far as that is concerned. This said, this the visit of the Pakistani delegation, which was led by Khawaja Asif, has been extremely important, for the Pakistani side to give details from the Pakistani side with the facts and figures about what the TTP is doing in Pakistan through the Afghan soil. And of course, these were facts and figures that could not be denied by the Afghan side, and they have accepted and they have said that they will be working along with Pakistan in order to thwart any future attempts by the TTP from entering into Pakistani soil. Let's hope some kind of positive solution comes as far as all of that is concerned, but a lot of reservations are there from the Pakistani side, and I hope, and we all hope from the Pakistani side, that the Afghan side is going to collaborate with Afghanistan, because there are so many other countries that are also willing to collaborate with Pakistan, such as China, such as the United States of America, in counter-terrorism, to also thwart all such elements from creating instability in Pakistan and in the region. So the next couple of days are going to be very important. All eyes now will be on Afghanistan and how it maneuvers in order to thwart the incursion of TTP and other such elements into Pakistani soil. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the latest as far as the Ukraine-Russia crisis is concerned. There is going to be a United Nations special session that is going to be held this Thursday. Also, China is trying to mediate between Ukraine and Russia. It has held many talks with Russia as well. But on the same side, there's a lot of increase in weaponry in Ukraine, especially from the European Union. How is that going to bode for peace or any prospect of negotiation between Russia and Ukraine? More in the following report.
It has been 1 year since war in Ukraine precipitated. Ukraine has become the stage upon which multiple battles are being fought. Diplomatic efforts are also garnering pace as China is attempting to mediate the complicated and intensifying Russia-Ukraine conflict. Chinese top diplomat Wang Yi met with Russian President Vladimir Putin and other senior Russian officials in Moscow to discuss a range of issues, including Ukraine. China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang stated that Beijing is deeply concerned about the year-old conflict in Ukraine, which appear to be intensifying and even getting out of control. Russia says it is studying a newly released paper on Beijing's global security initiative. Chinese leader Xi Jinping's flagship security proposal. US President Joe Biden made a surprise visit to Ukraine for the first time since the full-scale war began and announced $500 million in additional aid to Ukraine, part of a growing tally of assistance in the billions of dollars that Washington has provided to Kiev. US President Joe Biden, in a meeting with 9 Eastern Europe NATO allies, has assured his ironclad commitment to Article 5 of the alliance's treaty as the leaders reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine and underscored their shared commitment to stand with the Ukrainian people. Russia launched its all-out invasion of Ukraine on 24th of February after a months-long standoff that saw Moscow amass troops near the Ukrainian borders as Russian President Vladimir Putin demanded an end to NATO expansion into former Soviet republics.
Now, before we go to our guest, I wanted to just inform the latest as far as the details on this conflict between Russia and Ukraine is concerned. Moldova has dismissed a Russian accusation that Ukraine planned to stage a false flag operation and invade the breakaway region of Transnistria. The United Kingdom also has warned of a possible Russian offensive near Vuhledar in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. The town is experiencing heavy shelling. The United Nations General Assembly is set to vote on Thursday. I said that in the very beginning while I announced this segment. On Thursday to a resolution urging for lasting peace in Ukraine. Let's hope some kind of positivity comes on Thursday as far as this resolution is concerned. This vote is on a resolution stressing the need to reach as soon as possible a comprehensive, just and lasting peace in line with the founding United Nations Charter. The vote is the latest opportunity for the governments from across the world to take a clear position as far as this conflict is concerned. We will see where the nations of the world stand on the matter of peace in Ukraine. This was said by the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield, who told this to the General Assembly. So Thursday is going to be a very important day and lines are going to be drawn. Dr. Farah Naz, who is a foreign affairs expert, joins us online. Dr. Farah, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Farah, many developments happening as far as the Ukraine-Russia conflict is concerned. The most important, of course, being this vote that is happening on Thursday. Let's begin with this vote. What do you feel is going to be the prospect of this vote? Do you feel both the sides, that is Russia and Ukraine, and those who side by them, are wanting to see what the other countries decide, whether they are on Russia's side or on Ukraine's side, or is there a genuine desire to find some kind of a negotiated solution?
Thank you, Omar, for having me. Unfortunately, today and tomorrow, we're going to have 1 year of the Russia-Ukraine war. We have to reflect on what happened in this 1 year. We clearly remember the moment when Russia attacked it. But what were the major concerns of Russia when Russia was invading Ukraine? We should not forget that. Along with so many damages, infrastructure damages, economic losses, warfare losses, a loss to human life, and everything, energy, food security. I think everything has been threatened with this war. Recently, we are also hearing about that there is a discussion going on whether Russia and America, I will not say Ukraine, Russia and America will enter into nuclear conflict or not. This is really getting a hot and a very stingy debate here. But what led these two countries to reach to this point is something that is coming from the Western scholars and American scholars. The Jeffries, he kind of provided an intensive interview, and he wrote about it, what happened, when this war began, and how it began. And I was shocked to hear that he provided some kind of detailed analysis on that the war does not begin in 2022, last year. It began in 2014. And he provided detailed explanation for that, why he claimed that the war is 9 years old. It is not just 1 year old. And he explained that this was the time when, in the year 2010, 2011, 12, and 13, when the Ukrainian president at that time was more in favor of having some kind of balanced relationship between Russia and America. But that balanced approach was not liked by America. So this is what he says. It's not what I believe in. So he explained further that that balance was not acceptable to the United States. So United States came up with a plan to change the government in Ukraine, and they started manipulating in the political system of Ukraine, and they bring somebody into the system, of course through proper election system, into the system who can pursue the American agenda of having war with Russia. This is what these things are getting into discussion, that what happened and how it happened. So he firmly believes that the war is 9 years old, and this is not, Ukraine is something, a country which is used as a proxy, the way Vietnam has been used, the way Afghanistan has been used. Unfortunately, Ukraine also became a target of that kind of proxy war between two powerful states. And we also have to see whether in this conflicting environment, does the world can see, having a unipolar world as a solution to the problem, where the unipolar world is not getting satisfied, let it be this part of the world, or let it be the European part of the world, or any other part of the world. The unipolar world wants to have everything per their direction. It's okay. Power is something that is very dear to every state. And if it is unipolar world, of course, they want to remain powerful. But utilizing power through manipulation is not something that is need of the hour. I think this is some time where negotiation needs to play a very important role in resolving the issue.
But the fact remains, Dr. Farah, will negotiation ever play an important role? Because the way things are moving forward, the way we are seeing the increase in weaponry that is being provided to Ukraine, it seems as if there is a certain side that wants all quote unquote hell to break loose as far as violence is concerned, and there seems to be no end as far as this conflict is concerned. If you look at the latest, Finland is going to send Leopard 2 battle tanks to Ukraine. This has been announced by the Defense Ministry. This makes Finland the latest European country to send the German-made tanks to Ukraine. Wednesday, Spain also announced it will send 6 Leopard battle tanks to the country. The Czech government has approved a further military aid shipment to Ukraine. It's going to further send equipment to Ukraine as far as that is concerned. Does that serve the purpose of finding a solution to the current conflict between Russia and Ukraine?
Not at all. It does not serve the purpose of finding a solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But here, the point is this what America wants, to find a solution to the problem? No. And this is what the American scholars and analysts, they believe in, that when we go back to 2014, from 2014 onwards, when they install a government of their choice, what happened post 2014 was they started feeding weaponry into Ukraine, and they started preparing for a war. And it is also believed that through the Warsaw Pact, when the Warsaw Pact was disbanded, that was the time when Russia was given some assurances by Germany and the United States that they will not get closer to the eastern side of Russia. Russia was also made assured of that NATO will not be expanded. But I think that was all a lie, because as they moved on, they bring a change into the political system in Ukraine. They changed everything, and they started moving towards the Russian border, which was a red line. And recently, there's a viral clip of President Joe Biden, who says that before the explosion of the Nord Stream pipeline 2, he categorically explained to the to the journalists that if Russia invade Ukraine, or if Russia, move further, what we do is there will be no Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And we have seen now that it is blown up. Now evidences are coming up that there is a direct involvement of United States and Norway in the blowing up of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And when they were the world was asking for independent inquiry about what happened and how it happened, because this is not something that can just happen like that, and Russia can never do it. So definitely there is a third party. Initially, people were looking up to Europe, but of course Europe is heavily relying on the gas and the energy resources that are flowing from Russia to Europe. So of course they are not involved in. With the statements that are coming from the President of the United States that there will be no more Nord Stream 2, this is very much clear. And it is also getting in the news now and in the newspapers now that independent inquiries have been conducted. And when the reports came in, they were not in a position to disclose the reports. And they said that it's from European countries. I will not name them. The world knows now. So they said that we cannot disclose the report outcome because the outcome is very sensitive. So what is it all about? If it is this sensitive, they cannot share. If Russia was involved one way or the other, they would have been showing to the world, look, this is what Russia has done. But if another party is involved in any sort of atrocity, they say that it is sensitive. This is hypocrisy.
Like Dr. Farah, also the fact remains that, whether it be the Nord Stream 2 or other such gas pipelines, the fact remains that all of this creates a crisis, whether it be in the form of delivery of gas to the European Union and other countries, whether it concerns the rise in commodity prices, whether it be the rise in other products that are of immense use to public. So at the end of the day, who suffers the most? Is it the governments or is it the people?
It's the people, and the first affectees are the Ukrainians. And I would say they do not deserve to be treated the way they are treated in this war. They became homeless. They became refugees. And they are somebody who were not exposed to such kind of extreme environments, and after that it's the Europeans who are living without power, without energy, without all of that. This is not acceptable. After that, the world is getting affected with that. There is a rise in the prices. There is wheat shortages in the world. Food security is getting affected. But anybody care about what is happening to the mankind? It is all, the mutual rivalry that they are taking care of. It is all about two superpowers rivalry. And I would say it again that this is really getting and taking, a dangerous turn where both countries, Russia and America, because this is never a war between Russia and Ukraine. This is a war between...
But the fact remains, you say it is not a war between Russia and Ukraine, but Ukraine says, and I quote, that the Ukrainian forces have repelled 90 Russian attacks in the northeast and the east of the country in the last 24 hours, including attacks in the Kharkiv and the Donetsk regions. So is it a two-way street as far as this conflict is concerned, or is there one side that is applying pressure to the other, in your point of view?
I would say, first of all, I know, and the world know, who, with the help and support of whom Ukraine is having these kind of attacks against Russia. Of course, the United States, along with its NATO alliances, they are behind it. And I will also draw your attention towards there is a lot of hue and cry created in the European world as well, who are getting aware of that what is happening to them and through whom it is happening to them. They want to get over with it. They cannot afford it further, that their life be affected for someone else's cause. So I would say the traffic is coming two-way, but the thing is it Ukraine or is it America? It is America. We have to be very clear on those terms.
So in your point of view, what is happening from the Russian side is more of a retaliation and not an attack. It is a reactionary, effect of what Ukraine and allies are doing to Russia. This is what you're trying to describe through, this conflict that is happening?
Well, whatever the information is coming to the limelight now, which says with the President Joe Biden statements that if Russia move forward, I will blow up the Nord Stream 2. And he did that, right? So he has the capability. But in return, if we, weigh the pros and cons of this entire conflict, what will Ukraine achieve from this, and what will Russia achieve from this? We have to weigh that. And once we
All right. I
start
mean, but you
weighing
know,
that,
the more we wait, Dr. Farah, the fact is, the more we wait, the more the situation becomes complex. I'd like to refer to the recent visits to Ukraine by world leaders. Let's begin with the US President Joe Biden, who made a surprise trip to Kiev, the first since the invasion began. Then came the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who arrived a day before Biden, and now Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has arrived in Kiev also on the eve of the first anniversary of this conflict between Ukraine and Russia. On the one hand, we've got important leaders that are visiting Kiev. On the other hand, we've got China that is trying to talk to the Russian side and trying to mediate. Which side will come out winners?
Well, time will tell. It's way too early to tell now. But yes, you also need to see there are two baskets in the world now. One basket is of America and its allies who stay there. In another basket is the entire world who are paying the cost of the Russia-Ukraine war. So in the second basket, where we have China with us, so China, I think, played a very strategic role in this conflict, and China requested both parties that the security of both parties should be taken care of. I think that was a very, what we call it, a mature statement coming from China.
All right, I'd like to add,
side,
because you're talking of China, I'd like to add something that the Foreign Minister of China, Mr. Gang, said, quote unquote, we urge relevant countries to immediately stop adding fuel to fire, stop shifting blame to China, stop hyping up the discourse of Ukraine today, Taiwan tomorrow. This is also another discourse that is being put into place, and the pressure is being applied, said that if it's Ukraine today, it will be Taiwan tomorrow. So the Chinese side has come up with a rebuttal as far as that is concerned. Will Chinese wisdom, in your point of view, work?
Chinese wisdom, I think they are thinking on the right pattern, because America is trying to make Ukraine as an example, and to put pressure on Russia. And this is something like, if I want to tell you something, I will penalize someone else and you have to learn the message. So it's a great power rivalry, and in these great powers we have Russia, America, and China. I've been telling this, that if we go to and see the economic empowerment and economic power of all these powerful countries, the first 10 countries, like America and of course then China, but the rest of them are all those countries who are friends with America. On the 11th is Russia. So Russia has been picked up very carefully and very strategically, that let's go and lead it first, and then let's teach China, who happens to be the second one. Let's teach China that if you do something against our will, see, this is what we are capable of doing with you. And they have shown to the world that they can be united. But there are statements. We can see the Italian leadership there, but Macron has been very clear on they are not very much in favor of the conflict. The way they have been dished every now and then by the unipolar world, they are aware of those things. And I was really shocked to hear and see that when President Biden was giving the statement to the journalists, that there would be no Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the German leadership was standing next to him. He was like not in a position to say anything. And I was feeling like, look at such a powerful country, and they cannot even defend their national interest because they are relying on the energy and there is no alternate available to them at this stage. This means the world, and particularly the European world, they are becoming so scared and insecure that they cannot tell the United States that, look, whatever is happening is wrong, and there should be other ways, and the other ways should be through negotiations, through dialogue, through peaceful means. But I would say peace is never on the agenda of America. If we go back and check, the history of America, the way they approach different states, they use war tactics. They use weaponry. They use such kind of strategies that damage that country rather than build them up, and they come up with peaceful negotiation. Now, speaking of China, of course, there's a threat to China. And through the Russia-Ukraine war, I think the threat is becoming more and more stronger. So China, unfortunately, follows non-intervention policy. And with that non-intervention policy, China cannot achieve what it is aiming for. So China has to bring certain changes into its own policy domain, and they have to realize the fact that in this world where America is trying its level best to maintain its power and is going to every extreme, China also have to, being the second powerful country in the world, has to change the way it is approaching and looking at the world. Otherwise, China will be in a difficult situation in times to come.
Dr. Farah, are global relations shifting? Are there new blocs forming as a result of this conflict? We see the Chinese side, the Russian side getting together. We see Ukraine getting together with the European Union and the United States. Do you feel these are blocs that are going to be made for a long time to come? Do you see this conflict being outdrawn for a long time to come? Is there any possibility of some kind of a negotiated solution, whether it be through the United Nations or through mediators such as China?
I would say we will witness a couple of more movers and shakers. And after that, we will see there will be very prominent blocs. And in those prominent blocs, we will see some groups getting together with Russia, China, and of course with America as well. There is, a tendency of America trying its level best to manipulate the system to another extreme as well. And we have seen it the way the information flow has been completely controlled by the Western media, particularly the English media, where whatever narrative is promoted from them is there. Otherwise, there is no news and information coming from the other side of the story as well, because there is always two sides to the story. So slowly and steadily, as I said, there will be a few more shakes and jerks, and after that, the block's going to be more prominent.
Finally, what I'm going to ask you, Dr. Farah, is that should we put all the blame on the US? Is Russia not to be blamed at all? A very candid question, a layman question rather.
This is a very tough one, Omar. It's not a very layman one. But yes, if we look at the historical details, the Warsaw Pact, and when Russia was assured that NATO and Ukraine and America, they will not expand towards the eastern border. And eastern border was something that was established as a red line, right? So if somebody if I set a red line that do whatever you want to do, and even when in the beginning, when they were expanding, NATO expansion was to 2 countries, then later on to 7 countries. And then they decided that Ukraine and Georgia are going to be a part of it. This is where the war began. This is where Russia tried to give them warnings. Don't do that. This is my red area, red line you are about to cross. And Russia was not someone who just, started the war altogether and at once. No, it kept warning them, please do not come closer to this side. If you do it, I will retaliate. And every state, a sovereign state, has the right to defend its borders, to defend its sovereignty, and to stand for its security. If they don't, they will be wiped away from the face of the earth, and Russia cannot afford it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farah, to have joined us. Foreign affairs expert Dr. Farah talking to us about the latest as far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned. There's going to be a vote on Thursday in the United Nations. As far as this conflict is concerned, where all of this going, we will know after Thursday as to which country side with which partner in this conflict. But at the same time, what is also very evident is that there are countries that want to mediate between both the sides, and China is holding talks with the Russian side in that respect especially. We hope peace is given a chance. We all hope from across the world that some kind of a negotiated solution comes to this conflict. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns the 32nd anniversary of the mass rape of women that happened in the Kunanposhpora villages on this very day in 1991. Since 2014, the Kashmiri women observe this day as the Kashmir Women Resistance Day. More in the following report.
Every year, the 23rd of February is commemorated as Kashmiri Women's Resistance Day, inspired by the struggles of the survivors of mass rape and torture in the twin villages of Kunanposhpora. It was the fateful night of the 23rd of February, 1991, when the Indian Army launched a massive crackdown, and while detaining and torturing the men, they proceeded to rape and beat the women. On the 23rd of February, 1991, Indian soldiers raped more than 30 women in the Kashmiri villages of Kunanposhpora. The people of Kunan and neighboring Poshpora accuse the Indian Army of carrying out a planned mass rape of the women in these two far-flung villages.
Es vai toward the gas loan, log loan, which is like the behead was locked. It's just like the behead the Kishalon and me and what she Tilon. Or Gay army, who got Sarsi bagas gear in there. To get a cruises, but just and stay. But I just was a slabby one could make this nice and score gear back to good game. And large crackedy, Katarnak crack or. I ordered Napper Wapalwanki, the book Sikas Vaden, the book it contains gas loan or I can ask me more them score gear only, but I just quotes. But you could them to sit coat to Magar Humas army to my dramitated. Hospital state, Mrs. Palawa.
This 29 years long struggle of the survivors from Kunanposhpora is a part of the larger ongoing struggle in Jammu and Kashmir, against the institutionalized and structural violence of the Indian state in the region.
Suor is Kazan, the Mus was a boon, but is Kazan Bezor. Where is Tunkas? Subvision Convasion, Babaji would so a creator. With this the truth yell, Guyarmi.
Since 1989, more than 11,000 Kashmiri women have been gang raped and molested by Indian Army. Human rights groups have documented many cases since 1990. But because many of the incidents have occurred in remote villages, it is impossible to confirm any precise number.
Forces agar karnos, agar ki militant asan sano garomus, agar karanti, telos kusurwa, agar is bekusur is korokasi ki is hashar.
Korok dohurmati sayan majan binin sitan, yel ki zan mi khandari atman shukar gai pat suboy goz bagar, taj mushme.
The armed conflict in Jammu and Kashmir has given rise to a category of women known as half-widows. Half-widows are used to describe wives of men who have disappeared but have not been declared dead. The Association of Parents of Disappeared Persons estimates that 8,000 to 10,000 men have disappeared since 1989. However, the Indian government doesn't recognize the phenomenon of enforced disappearances in Kashmir.
ये आंखों के सामने पकड़ते हैं, फिर कहते हैं नहीं पकड़ा, घर ले आते हैं, छापे में लाते हैं, फिर पकड़ के ले जाते हैं, वर्दी वाले, बीएसएफ वाले, आर्मी वाले, टास्क फोर्स वाले, फिर कहते हैं हमने पकड़ा ही नहीं है। नहस ना ऐसे कहने का है देखा, अच्छी चूक ती ब्रांड करनी, तैथी न्यूक ती हमने ब्रांड करनी।
कहाँ मुलाकात? Pat gay be on shade at the book, by batty head, follow him. That lawyer, the book it get gay upward.
This leaves the half-widows in a state of permanent limbo as they suffer the consequences of an ambiguous loss, a situation of loss without closure or clarity. The families are pushed into a life of poverty, due to the disappearance of the breadwinner. Kashmir women are the biggest victims of this inhumane siege, and yet their resilience is unwavering. Their determination is commendable, and the courage lies in the heart of these Kashmiri women dream of freedom. Rape in Kashmir is a cultural weapon of war, and the rape of Kashmiri women by Indian security forces, in the background of a mainly Hindu country repressing a Muslim populace, functions as a tool of subordinating Kashmiri males and the wider Kashmiri community. Rape is being used by the Indian Army as a weapon in occupied Kashmir. As a state policy, the Army is encouraged, facilitated and protected in rape cases.
Rape, ladies and gentlemen, is being used as a weapon of intimidation, as the report also points out towards that, in conflict zones around the world, leaving a trail of communities buried in shame. After 32 years after this incident, when we look back at what happened in Kunanposhpora villages, out of all the women that were raped, only 40 managed to come out and talk about their ordeal, because the rest were not allowed by their families to come out, because it was a matter of shame. And indeed it was. A case has been awaiting a hearing in the Supreme Court for the last 3 years, where the women have patiently and repeatedly recounted what happened that very night on this very day in 1991. In his book Ethnography of Social Trauma in Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Shah also details another incident account by one 60-year-old widow, Fawzia. I don't want to go into the details because it is too sensitive as far as information concerning the rape is concerned. Organizations such as the Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society have been meticulously observing and writing down the testimonies of all the women who've been subject to rape, whether it be on this very day in 1991 or since that very day. In fact, more than 11,000 women, as this very report talks about, have been raped since 1989. Dr. Asma Shakir, Khawaja, Executive Director, Center for International Strategic Studies and Azad Jammu and Kashmir, joins us online. Dr. Saiba, thank you very much to have joined us. Even after so many years, Dr. Saiba, when you revisit this very day, it brings a lot of shame, not only to all of those families who have been subject to rape, but all of us as well, who recount this with a lot of pain. Don't Indians realize the pain the women go through? Have they lost all consciousness?
Very pertinent question, Umar, but we have to keep it in mind that we are talking about a country which capital is considered as a rape capital of the world. And this is the same country where the convicts of Balkis Pano rape case in Gujarat were released and they were treated like heroes. So when we see the Indian policies, that how they oppress the minorities and the vulnerable communities, it is appeared clearly that they use rape as a war weapon, and they use raping women as a war trophy. So that is why there is no shame, or there is no remorse, or there is, like, it is unacceptable that not a single convict of that crime has been punished by Indian judiciary or Indian courts. So definitely, unfortunately, they use it to inculcate fear. They use it to inculcate to stop people from demanding their basic rights. And this becomes ironic because India is a signatory of Geneva Convention, which strictly prohibits the use of rape as a weapon. We all know that rape has been considered in international law since 1995 as a war crime, and it's a war crime. But maybe to your surprise, which it is not indeed, that no Indian soldier or Indian officer of Indian military has ever been convicted or punished for committing rape as a crime in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Because so the army, the armed forces, Dr. Asma Shakir Khawaja, enjoy the benefits of acts such as the Armed Forces Special Power Act.
Yes, and that act provides complete immunity to all the convicts, and that is why we cannot even imagine that how Kashmiri women survive the Indian occupation and occupant forces for last 76 years, because this heavy militarization of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir is always giving a sense, a perception of insecurity, gelled with the sexual harassment and all rape and the disgrace they practice towards Kashmiri women, especially men as well. But the problem is that women, number one, rape is used as to demoralize Kashmiri people. Rape is used to blackmail Kashmiri men from raising their voices against illegal Indian occupation. So we cannot even imagine that how Kashmiri women and men definitely are surviving all these threats and humiliation and immorality carried out by Indian armed forces against them. And still, I think today is the day of to acknowledge the resistance of Kashmiri women, and today was the day when more than 70 women were raped by Indian occupied forces in Jammu and Kashmir. So, and still the women are standing tall against all these atrocities. We have seen, after 91, we did not see Kashmiri women scared or afraid of Indian military forces. They are still leading the demonstration. They were there when the stone pelting incidents were happening. They are there to send the male members of their families to raise their voice against illegal Indian occupation. So unfortunate, when we analyze those accidents, the purpose or the objective of all those incidents to shut down Kashmiri voices, shut down to silence Kashmiris from demanding their basic right to self-determination. But we have seen that Indian occupied forces in colonial India, they are completely failed in silencing the Kashmiri women specifically, and Kashmiri nation in general, from raising their voice and asking or demanding their basic human right. But definitely, the problem is that those sacrifices and those atrocities are unheard to in international community. They are not visible to international community, and this is what UN Security Council resolution 1325 aims at. It gives audibility and visibility to women sacrifices and the way women are victims and survivors of armed conflict. But unfortunately, the story of Kashmiri women is not being acknowledged or understood by the international community. And this reminds me a book written by the survivors of Poshpora rape, mass rape. And the book was written that, do you remember Kunanposhpora? And how many of us have read that book, which is written by 5 women survivors of that mass gang rapes? So unfortunately, but it is the duty of Pakistanis, it is the duty of Kashmiri diaspora to raise those issues and bring them into the notice of international community and organization, just like the women across the globe would celebrate Women's Day on 8th March. Everyone knows about 8th March, but very few people know about 23rd
But today it is the Kashmir Women
February.
Resistance Day, Dr. Asma Shakir Khawaja,
Yeah.
and we need to not only realize the importance of this day, but also highlight it on every single forum possible. Thank you very much, Dr. Asma Shakir Khawaja Sahiba, to have joined us to talk about the 32nd anniversary of this heinous incident that destroyed the lives of so many women in Kunanposhpora, and also the torture of so many men. Women are just used as tools, but not just the women, the men as well. The pellet gun injuries, Burhan Wani's incident, the tortures, and the list goes on. I could do a whole show just on what is happening in India and in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. I hope the world is listening. I hope the human rights organizations and the United Nations is listening. Allah Hafiz.